itspaikon, another tier list? Everyone has a tier list. Yeah, but I don't have one. It's my turn. It's my turn to make a tier list. How can I be a Genshin content creator without a tier list? Today, we're ranking every single character by how much you don't have to think when playing them. Like, let's say you have no arms, legs, or brain. You can still play that character to its maximum potential. All right, let's get started. Traveler. 4 different elements at this point, right? Dendro, Hydro, Electro, Geo, and Nemo. 5. Majority of the time, regardless of what elements it is, it's basically a EQ simulator, right? 2 buttons. Since when do you ever normal attack with Traveler? But if you're a Nemo, you do have to consider the elements that is being applied to the enemy. What does Hydro even do? Does anybody even know what Hydro Traveler even do? All I know is that he shoots bubbles and the burst shoots out an even bigger bubble. Like, what does it actually do? Is that it? I will put this in B, and then his sister as well. Oh, by the way, we're gonna be talking about the characters usage when you are using them optimally, okay? So we're not gonna do like DPS Jean. We're talking about when you're using the character in their optimal role. No DPS Chi-Chi, no support Klee, no physical damage John Lee. Jean, majority of the players use her as a healer, right? But because she is a Nemo, like the Nemo Traveler, you have to consider the elements that is being applied to the enemy. So you actually have to open your eyes to look at your enemies. Having to open my eyes? Her E and her burst pushes away enemies. And in very niche situations, she is very good for dealing with humanoid enemies. You can use her E to do the fall damage trick. I don't think she's easier to play than Traveler. You can't move your healing circle once you place it down, so you have to consider that as well. I think C.
I don't think she's that easy.
But before we continue, a big thank you to Samsung Galaxy for sponsoring today's video. The Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra is probably the best phone I've used for gaming. The thing I like the most about this phone is that it has a display that gets really bright, so when your parents tell you to go outside and play, you can go outside and play on your phone without worrying about the sun getting in the way. The pictures taken with the camera is also really clear and detailed, so every bit of enthusiasm and excitement is captured thoroughly. Oh, and you can also remove anything you don't want in the picture using generative edit with Galaxy AI. I'll provide a link in the description below so you can find out more about the phone. But that's not all. You will have the chance to get your hands on this brilliantly engineered device. All you have to do is tune into the Galaxy Battles Genshin Impact Grand Finals on April 21st, 12 p.m. PST on the Samsung US YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook channel, where I will be competing with some of your favorite Genshin content creators. During the event, you'll have the chance to win a Galaxy S24 Ultra. That's it. Just be there and you might get a free phone. There will also be other events in the upcoming weeks, so stay tuned for more. Lisa. I'll be completely honest. I don't really know what Lisa does except for her damage shred. Nobody actually uses Lisa as main DPS, right? That's not a play. Optimally, is Lisa just a Q simulator? You can't move your burst, right? So it does require some sort of placements. Like, what if you just place your burst down and then your enemy just moves out of it? Does her skill even matter at like any certain point? You need her E stacked for recharging. What does that even mean? Do you get more particles if you charge up her E? I'm just gonna press E like this. Particles.
You're in for a little shock.
Hello, particles. Okay, 0 particles. Okay, how about you hold it for a bit, but not fully charged? You have to fully charge it to get particles? Her main goal is to use her Q, but you need her E to charge up her burst. I think the same level as Jean. Burst is kind of the same. They both summon the circle, so you have to pay attention to where you're placing the circle. I think I'll just rank them by how many things you have to consider when using the character. Maybe make a D tier, but I still think they are in the same tier. I think Lisa should be ahead of Jean like this. Okay, Amber. If you use Amber in her party, what do most people even use her for? Is the double arrow spam with Amber like the optimal way to play her? Nobody actually uses Baron Bunny, right? Charge shots, Baron explosion. Placement of the Baron Bunny. Aim with the bow. When to use the burst because the AoE is so tiny. I'll move her up to D. Noelle, press E until you can press bursts. After pressing burst, left click simulator. Total of 3 buttons. I'm gonna put Noelle in high B. Pass Traveler, because a Nemo Traveler, you have to consider elements on the enemies. Barbara, 2 buttons. You don't have to consider the elements on the enemy unless it's Pyro or Cryo, but you do have to consider the fact that Barbara applies Hydro to you. So you have to consider the timing of her E. I'll put her in B. Wait, can you only get frozen once, or is it like a continuous Hydro application to you? It's continuous? Okay, whiffing a Nemo Traveler burst and applying the wrong elements versus getting frozen for like 15 seconds. I don't know which one's worse. I don't know which one's like a DPS loss. Surely the frozen one, right? Because if you're frozen, you can't even attack. Sucrose, most important thing, what element you swirl her bursts with and where you actually throw your bursts. Main purpose is to enhance the elemental reactions of your team. I'm gonna place her, I'll put her here, right next to Traveler. She's basically Traveler, like honestly, basically Traveler. We're not considering like utility. We're just considering how similar her playstyle is to Traveler. We're not considering how strong they are. I think majority of the supports, to be honest, falls into the B category because usually their E has some utility, their Q has some utility, and it's a 2-button character all the time, no matter what. But some has to think more than others. Official sub DPS don't have to consider elements on the enemy, don't have to consider anything except for the placements of your Oz. If the enemy goes too far, you have to reposition your Oz. It's a 1-button character. Well, it's a 2-button because your Q technically summons a bird as well. I don't think she can be a 1-button just because Oz expires before her cooldown comes back up. So the timing of her Q is kind of important. Like you can't just throw her Q out. I think right here is fine. Mona, basically like Lisa, Q simulator, but you have to use her E to get her Q, right? Pretty good at applying Hydro until Coconut came out, but you can't move her E once you place it down. And the AoE is not that great. But the placement of Q does not matter. Her Q is kind of massive. Like the main purpose of her Q is to just boost your damage. The only thing that matters is the placement of the E if you want to maximize her usage. I think right here is good. Kaya chat, Kaya. Another B tier. Press E, press Q. That's it. You kind of have to aim for his E. It auto aims, but it has a short distance. I'm gonna place it right here. Easier than Mona, harder than Noelle. To be fair, I don't think there's a lot of characters harder than Noelle. He's easier than Noelle. How is he easier than Noelle? Noelle, you just have your burst and just left click. Oh, but is left clicking another button? Noelle's technically 3 buttons, right? Because you have to left click. I'm gonna move both of them up to A, and then I'll add another category. I'll put this as S, and this one is SS. Diluc, the Batsman of Mondstadt. The main gimmick is the animation canceling between each one of his E's. Definitely easier than Amber because as a melee character, it auto aims for you. But is it easier than Jean? You don't have to consider positioning, but you have to consider your inputs, your button inputs. I think definitely C tier, but in front of Jean or behind Jean. Is he top or bottom? I think top. Razor, A tier for sure, but where? Easier than Noelle or harder than Noelle? Actually, Razor doesn't even need his burst. He's mainly a physical damage DPS. You don't need the burst. The burst just boosts attack speed. He's just a left clicker. Bennett, B-net. Q simulator, but you can't move his Q. Placements of the Q matters. Also, it applies Pyro on your active character, which means you have to be careful when you're fighting enemies that does cryo attacks or hydro attacks. How many times have you used Bennett's burst for your enemy to literally just leap across the map away from the burst? Like how many times has that happened? That has to be like at least like 50% of the time, right? Yeah, Mona's burst does not require you to think about positions, I guess. I think behind Mona because you don't need to stay inside her burst to have your damage amplified. Ningguang's main gimmick is normal attack to build up to get a free charge attack, right? So you have to pay attention to the stacks, right? So there is like a rotation. Her E requires some placement spots as well. She amplifies damage that pass by her E, I think, right? And in some cases, like in boss domains, it just straight up just breaks your E if you place it down. High D or low C. I mean, her attacks auto aim. You know what? I'll put in C. Beto's optimal playstyle is Q simulator. Kind of similar to everyone else, right? Her main role is actually a sub DPS with her burst up. We're talking about like optimally, okay? Like how majority of the players would use her and majority of the players pretty much just uses her for her burst. I think right here, Kaching is deceptively not that easy to play, right? It's been a while since I played her. The last time I played Kaching was before Dendro, and the optimal rotation was to spam charge attacks, but you have to time her charge attacks. There's a certain time where you use a charge attack, it actually animation cancels a bit, but it's melee and it's kind of short ranged, and the charge attack pushes you back. That was the most annoying thing about Kaching. Yeah, when you charge attack, you actually step back a bit. I think she's C tier in front or behind Diluc. I think she has more inputs than Diluc because you have to position her afterwards to move forward once you charge attack, right? I don't know if this is still true, but using her Q for Kaching is actually a DPS loss. So you don't even actually actually use her Q. It's actually a DPS loss. I think people only use her Q back in the day for the iframe. The main character of Genshin Impact, Xiangling. The only thing that really matters is the placements of Guoba. It's like Baron Bunny, but a bit better. It's not the same as Beidou because Guoba can't move. I think it's around Mona level. It's in front or behind Mona is the question. In front of Bennett, because Bennett's burst cannot move. All right, Chungus. Pretty much the cryo version of Bennett's playstyle-wise. Chungus's E is bigger than Bennett's burst. And it's on E, so you could use Sacrificial Greatsword. I think here. Bigger AoE can use Sacrificial Greatsword to refresh the cooldown. B tier. In front of Bennett. Water Boy. Xingqiu is the same level as Beidou, but you don't need to hit the enemies to activate Q. So I think right in front of Beidou. Getting enough energy recharge is harder than to play this character. I think this is fair. Chi-Chi, EQ simulator, but you also have to swap her in to normal attack enemies to apply the mark. Takes around an entire century to charge up her burst by herself. It's like the same thing as Mona, to be honest. I think right behind Mona, just because of having to normal attack the enemies to apply marks, other than using her Q. Venti, EQ simulator, both E and Q auto aims, but it might auto aim in the wrong direction. Have you ever whiffed a Venti Q? That is like the worst feeling in the world, but that's the only thing. Paikon, his burst doesn't auto aim. You clearly have not played Venti, where there's like 3 enemies in front of you, and then there's like 1 enemy behind you, and he aims at the enemy behind him. I've had Venti since version 1.0. He's been good up until Inazuma. That has been like an issue in like 30% of the times that I do Abyss. Just because his E and Q aims, I'm gonna place him behind Xiangling. Kali, animation cancel to play optimally, limited range on both charge attacks and normal attacks, defined range on both normal attacks and charge attack. That means you cannot aim at enemies right in front of her or too far away from her. It has to be like the exact distance. I'm placing her right here. I'm not even kidding. It's like actually worse than Amber. It's actually kind of sweaty to play Klee. Child, 2 stances, 1 bow, 1 dual sword. Changes depending if you activate the E. Can turn off E whenever you want, but the longer you have it on, the longer the cooldown it'll be once you turn it off. Child, optimally, you actually have to mentally count how long your E has been up. I think it's D. The question is easier than Amber or harder than Amber? I think here. Diano, it's kind of like Venti's Q. The E doesn't really matter because the main purpose is to just give you a shield unless you want to apply cryo on an enemy. But the main issue is where she shoots her Q when she kicks it. Like, have you ever played Diano and she kicks her Q like literally across the room? Her Q circle is pretty big. Yeah, not as big as the entire Abyss floor. Hello? Just for that, I think it's around Sucrose level. It's kind of exactly like Sucrose's Q, to be honest. Yeah, I think she's definitely easier than Sucrose. Sean Lee, 1 button character, end of story. And it's not even close. S tier. You hold E and you swap out. Sean Lee gameplay, period. I think sometimes the pillar gets in the way as well, I think. Kind of annoying. Xingyan, I've like never extensively played this character, but I believe if you hit enemies with her E, it actually decreases their defense. Oh, how many enemies you hit also depends. Yeah, Constellation 4. Needs to hit multiple enemies to maximize her E. But at her core, she's like basically just left click simulator, right? Positioning matters then, right? Isn't her E like omega short ranged? She's easier to play though. You know what? I think she's actually even easier than Lisa. First in C, I think it's fair. Everybody's favorite character for literally like 14 patches, Albedo. Biggest issue with this character is that enemies can break the E. So positioning matters for the E. And it's an elevator, so sometimes you step on it, it accidentally raises you up. The biggest upside to this guy is it's a 1 button character. I think here. I think right behind Razor. Ganyu, charge attack simulator. Q helps a bit, but it's kind of like Bennett's Q, where you cannot move it, doesn't move with you, and you have to aim with the charge attacks. Low A or high B, I think. The question is, easier than Xiangling or harder than Xiangling? I think her Q still matters, right? I think her Q actually amplifies damage. Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look. Okay, it does absolutely nothing by itself. How about her talents? It increased your cryo damage bonus. It matters. Her Q matters. Who said the Q doesn't matter? I think right here. You have to aim on top of having to place down your Q. You have to aim and you have to think about where you place down the Q. I think this is fair. Everybody's favorite edgelord.
Lament.
Up and down simulator. You have to spam spacebar and left click. I think Xiao is pretty active and you have to manage his HP. You know what? I think C. HP management, plunge attack pushes smaller enemies away. A, 3 buttons, 4 buttons technically, if you include spacebar. I think C is fair. Think about the scenario when you're not paying attention to his HP. He's really low, but he has his burst up. You ult and then you immediately swap and you lose all of it. Yeah. But is it easier than Kaching or harder than Kaching is the question. Wait, Kaching keeps her infusion if you swap out, right? No shot. Wait, hold up. She does. Right behind Kaching is right, I think. Xiao loses his burst if you swap out. Why are we doing stuff like this all of a sudden? It's the second half of 4.5. There's nothing else to do. Hu Tao, HP management, charge attack cancel, timing your bursts to use it when your E ends. Does Hu Tao lose her infusion if you swap out? E, swap out, and it's gone. Oh my god. Okay. It's like the same level as Xiao, to be honest. I think it's harder than Jean. HP and stamina management. You guys think it's D? Okay, fine. HP management, stamina management, animation cancel, D. At least Ningguang auto aims, right? It might be actually worse than Amber. There's no indication of when you should turn off Child's E. I think just because of that, I'm gonna put Hu Tao above Child. Rosaria EQ simulator, kind of similar to Bennett's. It might be easier than Bennett because E can home in, right? It's like a teleport almost. I'm gonna put Rosaria right next to Bennett. B tier is basically circle impact. Yanfei, charge attack simulator, but her charge attack has a limited range. Her stacks matter. Oh, right. I think she actually does stack, right? Oh, right. She's like Pyro Ningguang. I think in front of Ningguang. Eula, it's low C or D. Especially if you have her signature weapon, you actually have to time her bursts with the buff on your signature weapon to get the maximum value. I genuinely think Yanfei is easier than Eula, but I feel like Eula is easier to use than Ningguang just because Eula's burst can follow her around. Eula's burst range, it's actually kind of small. You know what? At least Ningguang auto aims and it's not melee, right? I'll place Eula behind Ningguang. Kazuha pretty much automatically places him down to B because he has to press 2 buttons, E and Q, and he has to consider what elements the enemy is swirled with. Hardest part is swirling the correct elements with his Q. It's B tier for sure, but I'm thinking it's like around Sucrose. I think right in front of Sucrose is fair. Ayaka, burst simulator, 70-80% of her damage is from her bursts. Super position reliance. You actually have to think quite a bit on when you use your bursts. You don't really have to manage anything other than positions though, right? Easier than Xiao or harder than Xiao. But if you whiff your burst, it feels really bad. I'll put her right behind Kaching. Yoimiya, 2-button simulator, E and left click. The only thing you mess up is if you don't set up her rotation properly, right? I think as a character, it's essentially a 2-button character. I'll put her right behind Albedo, the 1-button character. Oh, but you have the animation cancel, right? You have to do the animation cancel like this. Because if you don't, it's kind of slower, right? You see? It's slow. 2-button class, animation cancel. I think she might be a B tier, but the question is where? Everybody's in B tier. Like, how much does my brain hurt when I play Yoimiya? Like, how annoyed am I having to animation cancel? I'll put her above Ganyu. Seiyu. I think majority of the player base plays Seiyu just to get around. I'm not even kidding. It's literally E simulator. It's a 1-button character. You don't use Seiyu in battle. You use Seiyu out of battle. Raiden Shogun. This one's interesting because she can go both EM and carry. Is EM more popular than hyper carry or rational? That is the question because that changes her ranking quite a bit. Carry, rational, both rational and hyper carry. She's basically EQ simulator. She doesn't have animation cancel, but most people use her like this, right? Just imagine I'm in my burst form, okay? I think it's 1, 2, 3, and then a charge attack in her burst form. That's the optimal attack pattern. You kind of have to pay attention, but is it Yoimiya level? But then there's stamina management, right? Why not average the EM build and the carry build? Because the play style differs. If I average the EM build and the carry build, then she's sandwiched right between S and B. EM build is literally 1-button character, but B, you actually have to play the character. Low A. You know what? That's fair. EM build, she's S. Carry, rational build, she's B. I'm gonna put her in low A. Sarah, without C1, she's F. What's C1 on Sarah? Wait, the C1 makes it that you don't have to charge shot to get the mark, to place the mark on the ground. That's C2. Wait, C2 makes it so much better. You don't have to do the charge shot thing. This character is honestly constellation locked, I feel like. Should I judge all the 4 stars at C6 though? I feel like the consensus is judging 5 stars at C0, but judging 4 stars at C6. Especially for a character that has been out for like literally the longest time. C4 average. Should we judge 4 stars at C4 then? We'll do C4 for 4-star characters. Sarah is basically E-Simulator, right? Sarah does not need to use bursts. I think 1-button character, but you have to swap out. So I think high A. You know what? I'll put her in the same level as Albedo, right in front of Albedo. Coconut. This is a 1-button character, but you have to consider the position of the jellyfish. It's circle impact. Yes. It's like the same level as Chungus. I think above Chungus, because she has a really high HP pool, so you don't really have to think about when to swap her in. Chungus doesn't really have a high HP pool, right? Like brain cell wise, I think it's the same amount as Chungus. Aloy. I'm gonna put her right next to Deanno. She's basically DPS version of Deanno. I'm gonna put her right behind Deanno just because of the bombs. Wait, Aloy optimally, do you use her Q at all? Nobody plays this character. Nobody knows. I think people still use her Q because I think the multiplier is pretty big. Let me see. Multiplier on this is 500 at level 8. That's pretty big, but I'm gonna put her at the same level as Deanno. Same elements, same weapon, same auto aim mechanic where sometimes it aims at the wrong target. Thomas! Burst follows you around. I think he's pretty good. Don't have to consider position. It's like Xingqiu level. I think A tier is solid. I think it's exactly like Beto. You know what? Right behind Beto, just because he doesn't have access to sacrificial weapons. Ito. Kind of like Eula where you have to pay attention to the stats on his mask before you burst. Charge attack character, but you have to like normal attack to build up the mask. Does Ito use stamina when you're charging attack when he has like stacks up? You don't have to worry about stamina? Oh, okay. I don't think it's behind Eula. It's like the melee version of Yanfei and Ningguang. The question is it easier? I'm gonna go with below. I mean, Yanfei and Ningguang isn't really burst oriented, right? Ito can only get Geo Infusion if you use his burst. Goro? Chat, what's the difference between Goro's E and Q? Goro's Q follows you around, right? Doesn't he put down like a flag for his E? This is kind of better than Albedo, to be honest. Better than Albedo because it doesn't break. And Q follows you around. Is E more impactful or is Q more impactful? They both give the same buffs. I'll put him here. E doesn't follow you around, but Q follows you around. If E follows you around, oh my God, this character might be broken. I don't know. Kind of good in co-op too, right? Because it does like the entire circle. Oh my God, it's actually 2 dogs. I guess you could say they're the top dogs. Get it? Top dogs. That means like they're the top of their category. Shenhe, circle impact. I'm gonna put her right behind Rosaria because you have to decide when to use tap E and hold E, I feel like. Hold is always better. Wait, really? Hold for normal charge plunge, have her skill bursts. Oh, right. You think it's C tier? You think that puts her in the C tier? Should she go down a tier just because of that? How about right behind Xingyan? I think right behind Xingyan is good. Yunjin
From Le Seraphim.
beta level. I think it's definitely beta level. Burst follows you around, uses E mainly just to get energy. I think above Beto, if you were to compare her to Beto, it's like Beto, but you could actually just hold down E and it doesn't matter. But no sacrificial. Ah, shit. How about here? I did do it for Thomas. It's kind of hard because like if I could put her right on top of Thomas, don't ship that, I would. They're basically the same. So yay, Miko. E simulator. Press Q and then press E again. It's 2 buttons though. Her things don't move with her though is the issue. I think it's better than Albedo. Albedo only uses 1 ability though. I guess if you consider it that, should I just place her into official? You can't mess up Ye's Q though, because you can't reposition it like Oz, but it has like a way lower cooldown than Oz. If I could put her on top official, I would. But you know what? Lower cooldown, I think has a smoother rotation. So I'm gonna put her above official. Ayato, EQ character, circle impact again. It's like over here. His circle is pretty big though. You know, sometimes it's not about the size. Okay, I'll give my reasoning right now, okay? Because Ayato's E matters more than Bennett's E. But technically, his E matters more than the Q. Maybe right behind Chungus, because these guys are circle impacts, but their circles are their main thing. Ayato's main thing is not his circle, is his E. But his circle also accounts for some DPS, so it actually matters. It's not like Albedo where it doesn't matter at all. His Q actually matters. Ayato mains, it's okay. Your character is hard to play, it's fine. Not every character is built equally. It's fine if your character is hard to play, it's fine. That means you're just playing a harder character. You're just playing a harder game. Yi Lan. I think it's Xingqiu level, right? 2-button character. It's basically Xingqiu if the swords can home in. Oh, you technically have to aim. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about you have to press E and you have to like actually touch your enemies. Okay, with 2 and more enemies, you actually have to move a bit. So maybe Cookie, I'm gonna put her here. You actually have to look at your screen when there's multiple enemies. All these guys don't really have to. You think it's better for exploration than Seiyu? That's not her optimal role. Seiyu's optimal role is unironically just open world exploration. Nobody uses Seiyu for anything else other than rolling around in open world. Cookie, one button character, but you have to manage your HP. Top of A or bottom of S? I think here. Stop question marking me. What do you mean she heals? Yes, she heals. Yes, she heals. Everybody built EM Cookie. Nobody built HP Cookie. Okay, fine. I'll put her above Razor. Because Razor, technically, you don't need his burst, but his burst still matters. Hazo, you kind of have to do something. I forgot what you have to do as Hazo. I think you have to swirl elements with Hazo. Swirl 4 stack and then E. It's like Yanfei level, right? Feel like it's even more restrictive because you have to swirl. Okay, but is it Eula level? You just hold? Yeah, but nobody holds. You think people genuinely play like this? No, they use like Xingqiu or whatnot in his party, swirl 4 times and then press E. Nobody actually holds. Everybody swirls. Not as bad as Hu Tao. It's not D. I don't think it's D. Bottom tier of C. Swirl for Hazel is easier. Just use other characters. Yeah, but then you have to swap to other characters. Yanfei, Ningguang, Ito, Eula don't have to swap to other characters. You have to think about, you have to swap to different characters. That's like an additional brain cell. Stay mad, Hazel enjoyers. I'll move him here in front of Eula because I don't think missing a charged E is worse than missing a charged Q from Eula. I moved him 1 spot above, okay? Are you guys happy? Tignari, you have to aim, but at the same time, you don't have to aim. Because after you actually hit something on the ground, it collides with something, it splits, and it homes in on the enemy, right? I think right above Ganyu. Basically, all of his abilities home in. But you do have to use E, you do have to charge attack, and you do have to use the Q. Pale, circle impact. It's kind of like Diano, no? She throws like a Dendro Baron Bunny and it explodes. I think it's here is fine. Dory, her E homes in. The issue with Dory is her burst, right? Like it makes a line. Her skill homes in though, so it's not that bad, right? Her burst is this. Like you're supposed to be like between the enemy. I think she's around Amber level. I think it's here. Sino, very burst oriented, but once you're in your burst, you basically just have to time his E, right? I think here. Bottom of B, you have to time his E. You can't just spam the E. Maybe C. I'm gonna move him down to C. Timing has to press E, has to normal attack, has to press Q. I'm gonna put him right behind Diluc. Candace, it's like Beto. I'm gonna put her right here, but Beto has sacrificial greatsword, so I'm gonna put her right behind Beto. Nilo, E. Circle impact. The circle follows you. When I say circle impact, I mean the circle literally stands on the ground. High A because you might forget an E. Oh, you're right. Your E can get interrupted. You're right. Very top of A tier, I think. Above Cookie. Nahida, 2 button character. Q, the size of a continent. The range of the circle really isn't an issue, to be honest. I think she's an exception to circle impact. The question is, she needs to aim with her E unless they're melee range. She's somewhere in A, but I don't know where to put her in A. How about here? Right between Xingqiu and Beto. I'm gonna disregard her aim portion. I'm just gonna count the portion where you just tap E. Right between Xingqiu and Beto. Layla. Q does not matter for Layla, right? Let me see. Does Layla need to use Q at all? Oh, so it affects your shield, right? Okay, so Q affects your shield. Does Q follow you around? It doesn't follow you around. Circle impact? I don't think she aims her Q at enemies. I think she just summons it right on top of herself. So it's basically EQ swap. It's kind of like Ganyu's Q, right? Yeah. Actually, I would put her right here because you don't even have to aim. Scaramussy. Play him optimally. You actually have to use your ears because of this talent. It makes a slight swing sound, and when that happens, you have to dodge. So to really actually get the most out of this character, you actually have to listen to the sound, and you have to manage his blue bar. Isn't that 4 normal attack and dash? No. It's not guaranteed. It has a 16% chance of activating during his normal attacks. The blue bar management, listening to the sound. Do you have to time his Q? Somewhere around here, I think. I think right here. I would put Scara right on top of Eula if I could, but I feel like they are difficult for like different reasons. Baruzan. Wait, you have to charge attack to get energy from E, right? You have to E and then charge attack, right? With enough ER EQ swap. Okay, with enough ER. Is it still technically circle impact? It's triangle impact because her burst moves in a movement of a triangle. I think right between Coconut and Venti. Alhaitham is the stack management on crack, to be honest, because optimally you always want 3 little crystals to be up. Imagine counting your shards in the middle of Abyss. It's kind of similar to Child, but it's nowhere as bad as Child, I feel like. But if you mess up the rotation, you kind of can't really get it back. Which one's more punishing? If you mess up an Alhaitham rotation or if you mess up a child rotation? If you mess up a child rotation, I think right here then. Right between Hu Tao and child, I think is good. Yao Yao. Does Yao Yao's burst move with her? I know like random rabbits show up, but does like her burst move with her? You have to run around. You have to like have her out. I think she's here because you can't just EQ swap out with Yao Yao. You have to run around. You know what? I think right here is fine. Right between Traveler and Barbara. Daya. This is gonna be shocking, unironically. This is because no one actually uses Daya for combat. Her actual usefulness is for underwater exploration. It's because of this. Clam Daya cannot die while exploring underwater because when you're underwater, you cannot use abilities. So every single healer in existence is basically useless underwater except for Daya. Remember I said I'm talking about the optimal usage for the character? Daya's optimal usage is for underwater exploration, okay? You technically don't even have to press a single button with Daya. Mika. Mika is circle impact, but does Mika rely on his Q ever? Most people use him for his E, I think. I think Mika is actually E impact. Q is only for heals. It has like no utility other than heals, right? Like if you don't need to heal at all, you don't need to use Q, right? Press E, you get literally 60% physical crit damage and attack speed boost. This is literally E impact. Most people use Mika for the E. Don't be biased just because you voice him. I'm not the voice of Mika. Why above John Lee? Because John Lee, you have to hold E. Mika, you just have to tap E. You know what? Right here. Wait, if you press E, does this auto aim, by the way? Wait, if you have to aim with E, that's a different story. Chat, you guys are not letting me cook. This is the only tier list you need. Stand back like this. Auto aim. Kind of auto aims. It auto aims, right? Wait, what's the difference between aim mode and tap mode? Does it matter if you tap it or hold it? I agree. Good job, Paikon. That's what I'm talking about. About time there's some supporters. Wait, I think it auto targets even if you aim. Wait. Don't slander him yet. Bro, it aims no matter what. What's the point of aim mode? I didn't make that up. You guys saw that, right? I wasn't even anywhere close. Read his skill, bro. Bro, what? What do you want with my skill, dude? Oh, it's kind of like Nahida E. It like just like logs on to like your enemy and just like... That changes a bit. Honestly, higher than Nilo. You guys really think he should be here? It's one button, but you have to aim a bit. I think this is good. Baiju. How are you feeling, chat? How are you feeling? How about here? Ranged. You don't have to aim. Press Q. Win. Better than Xingqiu because he's ranged. So you don't even have to get into range of the enemy, kind of. Bro, this got the whole chat erupting, and I don't know why. That's what I'm just saying. He's not even ranked that low. Kaveh. What does he do? People talk about him all the time. I don't even know what he does. I think it's like Noel level, kind of. It's EQ and then your normal attack. Playstyle wise, I think he's like literally right next to Noel. I think this is a good spot. Kirara. I would think majority of the people use Kirara just for scaling mountains. I'm gonna put it right around. How about here then? How about here? Kirara in A because Kirara uses stamina. Does she actually? Yeah, she does. Look at this. You see? You see the stamina bar appears? Especially if you climb, it goes down. Lene. I think it's like actually unironically Amber level. You have to charge attack to summon your little hats. You have to summon 3 of them and then press E, right? See, I have 2 stacks. And then if I use my burst, I have 3 stacks. Then you do this. And it does like a 4 billion damage, right? Stop! Stop. It's way more complicated than Ganyu, okay? I think here's good. Oh, you need HP management as well. I'm gonna put D tier. HP management, stacks, aiming. I think it's D tier. Lynette. I think here. I think that's there's no stamina usage. No stamina is actually like Elan. I'll be honest, I forgot what her attacks even look like. Fremene. Is Fremene kind of like Diluc, chat? You just stack after E? What does that even mean? Don't spam E, you have to hit 4 times. Wait, what? I haven't played this character in forever. Why do I have his thing at level 11? So you have to like E, and then like that, right? So E, and then you just have to normal attack, right? Like you don't have to keep track of the stack, just E and then just go ham. I'm gonna give Fremene. This is easier than Eula. How about this? Right between Shenhe and Lisa. No animation canceling, press E, left click. That's it. Can I send this to Daya mains? I will literally get praised as a god, right? Neuvillette. I know people might think this is an easy character, but without C1 or a shielder, you actually have to consider his positions even when he's charging, especially when he's charging. Also, the balls disappear if you don't consume them, so they're on a time limit as well. I'm going to put him, it's a 4-button character, I think, and you have to aim. I forgot you have to aim. This tier list is trash. Have you ever played this game, or is this a huge trolling? You just hold E. Yeah, you just hold E. There's no need to dodge hilly trail rocks, right? Allow me to demonstrate playing this character. character.
Silence.
Look at this. Look at that. I literally get tapped out by an electro charged. Let me just move away from electro charged. You guys watch all of these videos and just think Neuvillette is S tier just because you can have John Lee on the team, just because you have C1. You guys don't know the pain of playing this character without a shield, okay? I think here, would you rather use your eyes or would you rather use your ears? Which consumes more energy, eyes or ears? How about here, right behind Diluc? I think easier than Kaching, but right behind Diluc. Risley. Oh, HP management. HP management. I hate HP management. Don't have to aim though, but HP management harder than Neuvillette for sure. But is it harder than the stackers? The stackers are hard for a different reason. Right behind Jean. Is that good? I don't know. This one's kind of like preference. I think I prefer, you know what? I'll put him above stacking since I prefer managing HP than the stack mechanics. Farina, this character is unironically harder to play at C6 than at C0. Definitely above circle impacts. Placement doesn't really matter. Don't really have to aim. Bam, right there. HP management is the issue. She can heal. This tier list is okay. Don't let them haters get to you. Godspeed, my friend. This was saying, dude. This is like the best tier list ever. And people are like, oh, it's not the best. Dude, it's literally the best tier list ever. You guys are just mad because your mains are like here, okay? Imagine being a Hu Tao main and she's in D tier. Charlotte, do you need to aim with Charlotte, by the way? This... You don't have to aim. It's like Nahida. Circle impacts, but Nahida kind of. You have the option to aim. It's like basically a worse Nahida. Her entire purpose is to apply cryo. But I feel like people mostly use Charlotte for the heals. Okay, let's just say people use it for the Q as well. I'll say around Bennett level then. Right here is good. Navia, another stack management character. Is it easier than Hazo? Might be harder than Hazo. I think it's like same level as Hazo because you need to trigger crystallize, right? It's the Geo version of Hazo. You have to trigger reactions. Her Q makes it easier though. How about that? In front of Hazo, because her Q actually helps her get stacks. Chevreuse. People mostly use her for the increase in damage, right? This is E Simulator. She's like Mika. Yeah, she's like Mika. If Mika's S, Chevreuse has to be S. Q doesn't matter. One button character has aim mode, but it kind of auto aims anyways. She's so hard to aim. Are you trolling? I turn around like this.
Drop your weapons.
Bro, it auto aims. Cloud Retainer Q Simulator. It's not circle impact, so I think it's A. How about right in front of Baiju, I think. Gaming EQ Simulator. I think it's like the same level as Shao, I think. Except you can only plunge when your E comes back to you. He uses HP, right? He can die pretty easily. I think right below Shao. I think Shao's easier to not die with. Gaming, I feel like it's kind of hard. I think right behind Shao is fair. Chiori. EQ Simulator. It's basically better albedo, but I feel like she has to press burst when it's available, right? Positioning matters, unlike Farina, because the pets don't follow you around. It's like yay almost. Okay, here, I think it's because it's better than Guoba. Arlenchino, is this good, chat? Is this the play? I'll just put her in F just to keep you guys in suspense, okay? Because I can't even take her out. I can't. It doesn't work.